My mentor was like very high up, but because he was from Africa and had dark skin, he got harassed so bad. And he told me, he said, Danielle, don't go to HR. It's career suicide.
Hey, what's up? Today I have Danielle. She has her bachelor's degree from Wichita State in aerospace engineering. She worked as a aerospace engineer between Oklahoma and Kansas for 5 years. And today she's going to talk about the truth about what it was like working as an aerospace engineer. Number one, the toxic culture. Number two, it was boring. But in number three, now she's working on her own startup called Happy Takeoff. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Good to be here.
All right, so you called me to tell me about how toxic your first job in aerospace engineering, and I thought it was gonna be like, you face a little bit of harassment, but no, you really laid it out. So what exactly happened at your first aerospace engineering job that almost got you to quit aerospace engineering?
Yeah, so what I told you actually was my second aerospace engineering job. My first one was pretty toxic as well, but we're not even gonna go into that. It wasn't as bad as the second one. So the second one, oh my gosh. So where do I begin? Old and white. And I'm not gonna say that is a bad thing, but when everybody is one certain way, it kind of gets old. The technology that I was around was so freaking cool. So I learned so much. I loved what I did at work. So when I went to engineering school, I was like looking up like how much do engineers make, right? If you're watching this channel, this is how I even know who Matt is, because I was like, okay, what do engineers do? How much do they make? What kind of engineer should I be? And I saw all these programs recruiting women into aerospace engineering and saying, okay, you can make this much money, you should do this. So I'm like, well, this is really cool because I'm super passionate about aerospace engineering. So I want to get into that. I'm really into space and anything that has to do with flight. And what I learned, and this is something to probably take note of, if a certain culture is recruiting like minorities or women, the reason they're recruiting them is because what I thought, so this is where I was naive. I thought, oh, they really like women. They really want women to be a part of their culture. That's why they're recruiting all these women. So I'm like, this is the place for me. What I learned the hard way is if they're having to go out of their way to recruit from colleges and recruit from job fairs, that's because they're losing women. And that is probably because the culture isn't very friendly to them. First off, I will say the company that I work for, they provided me with a mentor. And my mentor was amazing. We're still really good friends. He was great. And my manager was really awesome. The team that I was put on was very diverse. I had a female manager. My mentor was from Africa, and like everybody on the team, there was like all different cultures. And I was there on that team for about 3 months. And if it would have stayed like that, I probably would have wanted to stay into it. But then, and when I was doing that, I was still like a co-op. I wasn't graduated yet. Then when I actually got my degree and I went to salary, that's when I really kind of saw what it was really about. And I guess like the first thing that I noticed was just not ever knowing what was going on. And I pride myself in like being a hard worker and always figuring things out. And it just seemed like I was like totally out of the loop. And like, wait, when is that happening? When is that meeting? I didn't get invited to that. What are we doing? Like, when is that due? Why didn't anybody tell me? And like, I was just like cut off from information, totally cut off from information. And then when I would seek it and like try to find it, people would just be like really rude. So that's kind of how it started. And that went on. And I just thought that was just me. Like, I thought, well, they're probably just doing that because I'm new and they don't really trust me yet. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt. But after some time went on, there was a guy that he became my friend. I was like, I'm really frustrated because, well, nobody on my team really knew how to do that much stuff. To be honest, like a lot of these older guys, they didn't really know how to do crap. So I would go out and ask, like out in the other groups, like people that I knew used to be on this group that were leaders on this group, I would go ask them, how do you, like one of the things we were doing, and to talk about like what an aerospace engineer does. Well, I guess we'll get to that later, but I was needing some help we were doing like some really hard engineering drawings. And there was like a lot of nomenclature and symbolism that I didn't really know what it meant. It was different than stuff I had learned in college. And so I went to one of the like experienced people that used to be on that program that I was working on. And so he was like, yeah, I'll mentor you. And we started going out to lunch and he would like mentor me over lunch. Well, that led to him hitting on me and pretty much trying to date me. And for that kind of went on for like a month. And then I finally was like, you know, no, this is not going to happen. We're just friends. Then he was like sending me text messages saying that basically he said if I didn't work with him, that he would make sure that nobody else at work would work with me. And and there was another person, another guy like from IT who was like coming over harassing me. He was like texting me, trying to go out with me, and I wouldn't reply to his text. And I had 3 monitors, and he comes and takes one of my monitors. And he was like, well, you can't have 3 monitors because we didn't issue those from IT. And literally there's like 150 engineers behind me with as many monitors as they want. And I was like, well, I don't understand why I'm being singled out. And he was like yelling at me. He's like, you're not being singled out, but I'm taking your monitor. And he like just snatched my monitor. Like, what the heck? And I was like also like in this corner of the whole, like there were probably like 150 engineers that worked in this one room where we all had cubes. And I was like in the far, far corner, which also made it way worse. So there were no managers over there. There were no other employees. I was like in the prime location for like harassment because nobody else could see me. And I was the only girl in that whole area. And my mentor, the one I told you about that was from Africa, he actually quit and he went to another company. He went to HR before he left. And I'll actually tell you, one of the people that was harassing me called my mentor. He actually called him a black monkey at work. And he had witnesses. And my mentor went to HR. My mentor was like very high up, but because he was from Africa and had dark skin, he got harassed so bad. And he told me, he said, Danielle, don't go to HR. It's career suicide. And I was like, gosh, you know, I really respect his opinion and he's probably telling the truth, but I feel like I just want to go anyway. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll just quit. And so I went to HR with all this stuff and I told him I don't feel safe. I also actually found out from a mutual friend that one of the guy that was taking my monitor, he actually physically like hurt a girl in like the stairway. I don't exactly know the details of it, but they were just like, hey, be careful, because he actually physically put his hands on somebody at work. And I'm like, whoa. And so I told HR, like, I'm not comfortable even coming into the office at this point, because you guys aren't doing anything. Like at first I went to HR and I thought like all these people were going to get like fired the next day. Yeah, right. That's not what happened. It all just got brushed under the rug. And now all these people know I went to HR. So now it just makes it even worse, right? Now I'm a snitch. Oh yeah. One of the guys that I took to HR came to my cube and he had like a couple people behind him. He was like, snitches get stitches. And I'm like, okay, that's a freaking threat. So I reported that to HR. Yeah. So I reported that to HR. Yeah, it got so ratchet. Like, what the heck? I'm like, this is not what I expected in engineering. All of this was like fuel. Like, I've always been like an entrepreneur. So I always kind of knew like, all right, I'm going to start my own company. And I just started using that as fuel for like, when I went home from work, I was doing research and like, okay, what am I going to do if I quit? So I kind of started coming up with a plan until it just got like so bad that I finally just quit. But anyway, that was probably more than you wanted to know, but that's pretty much the story.
Before we jump into your startup though, the second complaint that you had that we talked about on our pre-call was that it was boring work as well. So not even the work itself was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, like the engineering drawings, like that was really fun. I liked doing that a lot because we were like actually like resizing the airframe. And so when I was doing that, I was in the zone. But after I figured out how to do it, then it was like just very repetitive. And you're just going to do that. And I figured out how to automate it. So we're like writing code to automate it. And then at that point, like it was so boring. I didn't have anything to do. Okay, so we'll say this. The type of work I did, like there was a lot of code, like way more. And you would think in aerospace engineering, you're going to do like more like compressible or like computational fluid dynamics, CFD, MATLAB, stuff like that. I hardly ever got to, well, and I was also a stress engineer. So I did a lot of like PATRAN and NASTRAN type of stuff, but that was very rare. Even when I say a lot, like that's like the most aerospace stuff that I did was PATRAN. And that was like maybe like once a month, we would run some analysis in PATRAN and then we would get a bunch of results, but then we would find a lot of issues. And so you kind of would have to like reverse engineer and like, okay, find the person that the loads came from, find where that came from. And it was like being a detective, honestly. I really don't want to sound cocky, but if you have like a high GPA and you're doing good in engineering school, I would say you're really going to want to probably work for a really cutting edge, like maybe a startup, a cutting edge aerospace. Because if you work for one of these legacy companies, and I'm not going to say what company I work for, but if you work for a legacy company, you're going to do a lot of repetitive stuff. All of the stuff has really kind of been figured out. So you're really not going to be doing anything innovative. The things you're going to innovate are how to automate the mundane paperwork that they do. So that's what you're really going to bring to the table is you're going to be looking at, this is repetitive. Why are we still doing these long paperworks? We can code this. We can put this in Excel. We can put it in VBA. We can automate all this stuff. Like, we don't need to be filling out 100 pages of paperwork. So as far as like aerospace related, I didn't do hardly anything aerospace related, like the things that I was really passionate about until I did my startup, minus the things that I did in Patreon where we would do loads and stuff like that. But in aerospace engineering at these legacy companies, you're really going to deal with a lot of old fashioned ways because like these planes have been around for a long time and they have their system of how they want to do it. And so if you're new into it, it's just going to be like painful, like, oh, why are we doing all this so old fashioned? Why do we have so much paperwork?
Would you consider, for many aerospace engineer grads, working for Boeing or Airbus or even maybe Raytheon or Northrop Grumman would be a dream job? Would you consider those legacy companies that are boring to work for?
Yeah, the last two that you said, probably you're going to get more into defense. So if you can get on a new program, so that's key. Like I didn't really know this until I got into industry. So they call it a program. The program is the plane you're working on. So if you're working on like, let's say you work for like General Atomics and you're working on like the Predator. That's been around for a long time, so you're probably not going to do that much innovative stuff. But you could work for General Atomics and work for like a new drone that the public doesn't even know about. So it depends what program. Like if you work for Boeing and you get on 737, that's going to be a boring program. Anyway, you probably don't want to be on that program right now anyway because of all this drama they have going on. Let's say you get on Airbus and you work on like A320 or A350. Those are going to be boring programs. What I would consider boring because you're not going to innovate. Those planes have been around for a long time. It's not to say that Boeing and Airbus or Raytheon, I forgot the other one. Would you say Northrop?
Yep.
Yeah. So and I actually toured Northrop last month, and they are working on some innovative stuff. So if you're working for a legacy company, if you want to apply, don't assume that just because now you will have job security. Yes, you will have that. You'll have great benefits, but don't assume that you're going to be in this cushy ass, fun, innovative job just because it's a legacy company. If you get stuck on an old program, and if you're a person that likes to do the same thing every day and you're not really trying to innovate, then that might be the job for you. If you just want people to leave you alone and do the same thing, you'll like it. But if you want to like use your skills and you want to create and you want to design and you want to be innovative, just make sure that when you apply for those jobs that you make sure and let them know, I don't want to work on a legacy program. I want to work on a new innovative program, maybe more of an R&D type project or advanced product development type of thing. That way you'll get to like actually innovate. If you get on a program that's already existed, you're not going to innovate at all.
Speaking about innovation, is that you seem a lot happier now that you're working on your own startup, Happy Takeoff, and you said you met with Uber Elevate.
Yeah, I was in Silicon Valley, met with NASA, Ames, Uber Elevate, and many others. And what we're working on is mind blowing. This is why I became an aerospace engineer. So I'd never regret getting an engineering degree. And for the record, technically my bachelor's is in mechanical engineering, but I was an aerospace and mechanical engineer at Oklahoma State. I was dual major and I had one semester left and I got a job in Wichita when I was still in school. So I moved to Wichita, and when I moved to Wichita, Wichita State didn't want to transfer all my aerospace engineering credits. They wanted me to do their whole aerospace program in order to get the aerospace engineering degree. And then I was going to have to go to school for like a whole other year and a half. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'll just take the mechanical engineering because I had all the aerospace classes. So up here I have all the aerospace classes, but on paper, technically, I'm a mechanical engineer I'm supposed to be doing my master's in aerospace engineering right now, but I haven't really been doing my master's. I changed my thesis to a startup, but we've been getting a lot of interest from Uber and NASA, and we're putting together this huge program. We would like to mass produce eVTOLs, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. And if you're looking at becoming an aerospace engineer, literally, if it's a jet burning engine, get out of it. There's no money in that. Just get out of it. You're going to have a boring career. Electric aviation is where it's at, specifically electric vertical takeoff and landing. VTOL, electric VTOL. If you're not doing electric VTOL and you're an aerospace engineer, you're going to be bored and you're wasting your time.
Yeah, I love that piece of advice. But let's talk about how is Happy Takeoff going? Are you planning to do the design for them? Are you going to go from design all the way to manufacture to selling the whole product itself? Like, what is the product that Happy Takeoff is going to sell to these companies?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for starters, people probably need to learn about like what urban air mobility is. Urban air mobility, in a nutshell, it's just on-demand air. It's air taxi, on-demand air taxi, and so basically, you'd be able to use your phone to order a flying, not a flying car because it doesn't really drive. It's just vertical takeoff and landing. So I like to say flying taxi. I don't like to say flying cars. So Uber Elevate, what they're doing is they're like designing the whole ecosystem that brings everybody together. They're not designing a vehicle. They're just putting people together. They're like the conductor of the orchestra, and they're getting all the different companies to talk together. Like, okay, these people are designing an eVTOL. These people are designing the battery systems. These people are designing the air traffic management system, because currently our air traffic management, it manages air traffic like way up here. We don't really manage, that several thousand feet to the ground. That's not really managed over a city. It is like over an airport, but not over a city. So Uber Elevate is just looking at putting all those people together because they have the data. They have all of our data, like how we travel. They know where we want to go, when we want to go there, how much we'll spend, how many people are going to be there, how long we'll wait. So they want to use all of that data to enable all these other companies. So they're not developing a vehicle. And what Happy Takeoff does now, initially when I started Happy Takeoff, the first thing I thought was like, oh my God, we should design an air taxi. But then it didn't take long for me to abandon that idea. That's still an idea for future, but we want to design a longer range air taxi. Long range. So right now they're just short range because the batteries are the limiting factor. They can't go very far. They're going to lose charge. They might be able to go about 60 miles. For Uber, they're wanting you to go about 20 miles range. We're definitely looking at something where it's going to be longer range, where maybe you go to like Wichita to Kansas City, or Wichita to Dallas, or Silicon Valley to LA, or something like that. But right now what Uber Elevate is more looking at is like, okay, from like one side of the bay to the other side of the Bay Area, where you're just maybe going like 20 miles or less. They have the capability to go 60 miles, but they're only going to go about 20. And so we were initially going to design an air taxi, but then I started looking at, well, there's all these other people that are already so far along with their designs. So where are the gaps? Like, what needs to be filled? Where can we make money? What is the demand that what's something we can solve? What's the problem we can solve? And so what we looked at is like, they don't have anywhere to take off and land. Like, where do you see a helipad or a heliport, vertipad? I've heard them called all different things, but basically a helipad, like what you see on a hospital where the helicopter comes in and lands. If we want to have on-demand air taxis, we need to be able to land wherever we want. The first thing we did is we started talking to cities and saying, okay, hey, we want to bring all these landing spots to your city. And they were like, hell no, that looks like a construction nightmare. And they were not receptive to the idea at all. So we went back to the drawing board and like, okay, how do we provide landing locations that's not going to piss off the cities, not going to piss off the building owners, and people are going to welcome it? So we sort of have this idea where we would be like the Airbnb for rooftops, and what Happy Takeoff's product is we're designing a mobile vertiport. So we'll actually do the entire construction in collaboration with the FAA, so it'll all be certified, where you can basically, if you're a building owner, a homeowner, or a landowner, you can partner with us and you can lease out your space. We'll bring the equipment and you can have a VTOL land on that structure. If you don't like it, if for whatever reason you don't like the traffic, it's not for you or whatever, you didn't spend millions of dollars on this construction to build this vertiport, because you can't just land them anywhere. The FAA regulates where they can land. It has to meet all these qualifications and certifications and blah, blah, blah. What we do is, all right, we'll bring you our equipment. It's already certified. We've already looked at your location. Yep, you're good. You're good. Check, check, check. You can put our structure on your rooftop. And then if for some reason you decide you don't want to use it, then no hard feelings. We come get it. We can lease it to somebody else. You're just leasing it. You don't actually have to buy it.
All right, and so if you want to check out Danielle's YouTube channel where she does some rapping, you can check it out in the description below. But you can also go to happytakeoff.com, which I'll leave a link to that as well if you want to learn more about what they're doing in the air taxi space. Danielle, thank you for being a guest, and I'll see you guys later.